What's up, guys? We are back for another Marvel Legends review. Today we're taking a look at the titular character in this wave. We have got Venom himself, Eddie Brock. We've got that black figure in the contrast with the white box. I think is very striking, looks really nice. He's in standard packaging as usual, only of course we've got the white box this time around, so things are different but still very familiar. He's in the window, we've got the Venom logo down there on the bottom, and in the back we've got a product shot, we have got the product lineup, we've got the Build-A-Figure, and of course a write-up for Venom himself. So let's pull him out and take a look. Alright guys, here he is out of the packaging. This is our new and improved, well, maybe sort of, but sort of not, Venom figure in the current Venom wave of Marvel Legends. And after watching this review, if you're interested in snatching one of these up for yourself, check out Big Bad Toy Store. I will put a link down in the description below. But let's get started on this guy and run through Articulation real quick because it's stuff we've seen a million times before, but of course, we do have to check it out. So as far as moving this guy around, he is pretty standard boilerplate Marvel Legends style stuff. We've seen this figure exactly before with minor changes, and then of course he's not on any current or new body by any means. So you can move the head all the way around, down, up, side to side, all that good stuff. No bobble action or anything like that though. Out, arm swivel, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, more than 90, which is great. Hinge and rotation at the wrist. One click back. Pretty good hunch forward though, so that's good for a nice menacing Venom. Waist rotation, legs go out that far, kick forward, little kick back, thigh cut, double jointed knees, not the greatest. We've got a shin swivel boot cut, and then we've got rocker and hinge down there at those ankles. So yeah, he is exactly what you'd think to get out of a Marvel Legends, you know, pretty standard stuff, nothing too crazy, maybe not as agile as he needs to be, but then again, we knew we weren't going to get a new body for this guy. Now, as far as the overall look and feel of this guy, like I said, he is, for the most part, reuse. So this is, you know, it's our Hyperion body. We've seen this body a million times. It's the exact same body we got on the original Venom, and we will do a comparison later on. But of course, there are some differences at the base level with this particular figure, but the overall design is still the same. We've got our black figure with slight white paint applications, and honestly, if I had to gripe about one thing, it's the paint on this figure. A lot of the line work is just not as good this time around. The spider emblem on his chest and on his back is just really fuzzy and not really nicely done. The lines on the inside of the white are fine, but it's the outer rim of that white that's just really fuzzy and kind of grainy almost. There is in some instances, and I don't really think I'm actually seeing this, I'm not entirely sure, but it almost looks like there's a little blue tinge to this figure. And, you know, that kind of goes back to McFarlane Venom, but I don't think it's there. When I have the two Venoms next to each other, I don't really see it, but at times I think I do, so I'm not sure if it's just light playing tricks on me or what. So take that with a grain of salt. We do have the white emblems on the wrist there. We've got a little splotch here on the waist, but as far as the rest of this figure goes, I mean, he's pretty standard stuff. You're not really getting anything different, you know, not outside of the fact that he has two fist hands and the other Venom had some style pose hands. He had some kind of gripping, almost gripping hands. You know, the figure itself is the same in terms of the overall base. We do have a different head going on here, which we will look at momentarily. But for the most part, he's pretty standard stuff. And if anything, you know, I'm again tired of this body. I have to say that pretty much every time I see a Hyperion body being used. But we knew we weren't going to get a new body for this. It's an obvious cost-saving measure on Hasbro's part. But really, the paint applications leave a little to be desired, especially when I compare it to the older figure. As far as the head goes, this is one of the small differences in terms of the base figure itself. We've got kind of the grimacing, open mouth style head here, and I do have some paint issues. I'm not sure if they're issues or not, because I've seen this crop up on a number of other people's Venom figures, but on both sides of the head, there is black kind of bleeding into the white on the eyes, but it's in different places, so I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. I would have to assume it is not, but it's weird to see it on multiple figures, and my older figure has no issues like that. The mouth is open, again, like I said, very nicely painted. I don't have any issues with the teeth or the tongue, so this is kind of one of the differences between the other figures, because the previous figure has that big nasty tongue with the slime all over it sticking out, so I always prefer that, but this is a nice head as well. My only real gripe and, you know, maybe question is that supposed to be there? But otherwise, you know, when you're looking dead on, he looks pretty solid from the neck up for sure. Now, as far as accessories goes, we do have a couple to talk about, and this has kind of been the point of controversy with this figure, I guess is the only way to describe it. So we've got kind of the tendrils that are coming up. This ports into the small peg hole on his back there, and it shows that the symbiote is coming up, wrapping around his head, going to turn Eddie Brock into Venom. And honestly, I do like this. I think it's pretty sweet. It works pretty well. The only real issue I have is that time from time I'll be playing around with it and it doesn't really sit well. You kind of have to stretch it down, and this is just my experience. Your mileage may vary on this. This could be unique to me. We just have to kind of stretch it down a bit to make it sit a little more flush against his chest. But I think it looks cool, and you could use this with the regular Venom head as well. I've done that, and I think it looks pretty cool in that way as well. You can have it sort of like the symbiote is alive while Venom is, being posed on your shelf outside of Eddie Brock. But of course, the big thing here is this Eddie Brock head, and just at the outset, I think the head is nicely done. There is, of course, one big, no pun intended, caveat with that. So in terms of the sculpt and the paint, everything, I mean, this looks like what I think of when I think of a comic Eddie Brock. Classic comic Eddie Brock, this is him for sure. Those humongous big bushy eyebrows and that big square jaw. I mean, everything screams Eddie Brock. The problem here is that this head is just too big. It's just way too big for this body. And I think, everybody picked up on that from the minute we saw this figure teased. It's just, this belongs on a bigger body. I've seen someone use this on, they somehow got it on a Marvel Select Venom, I think is what it was. And it looked a little better because that figure is larger. That said, I do like this. I don't know if I'm actually going to use it though. I don't think I'm ever going to have two Venoms on my shelf, so I may end up using it, but it definitely is kind of off-putting sometimes. You can see that it's just slightly oversized, and I don't know why they did that. They obviously had to have known that something was amiss here, because outside of that problem, this head is rock solid. I think it's fantastic. Everything about it, it's really nicely done. It looks great. It's just, plain and simple, it's just too big. And as I mentioned, here is our new Venom with our older Venom. This is from whatever wave this Venom was in. Absorbing Man, maybe? I don't really remember. So we've got basically from the neck down there the exact same figure outside of the hand differences. And I think what I'm going to do is kind of swap some hands around. So one style pose hand and one fist hand on each figure. I think might change it up just a little bit, give him a little bit more flair. But the big difference is, of course, the heads. Obviously, we do have Eddie Brock head with the new one, but in terms of straight Venom, we do have this different head, and I really, really like this head. It just screams classic Venom to me with all the slime and everything. That's not to say this one's bad or anything. It's just, it's a personal preference, but I dig this symbiote edition as well. But like I did mention, the one thing that really sticks out between the two is that the paint is different. So you can see the Venom logo is slightly oversized on this one, but it's cleaner in general too. It's not as fuzzy. Neither of them are perfect by any means, don't get me wrong, but this one's just, the line work on the white outline of that spider is just not what I want it to be. So obviously there's some good, there's some bad going on with this figure, at least from my perspective. I think that the body in general is, not necessarily the greatest anymore. It's been used and reused and overused. And then of course he does have some pretty sloppy paint apps in places. I do think that symbiote tendril piece is pretty sweet. And of course I like the Eddie Brock head, but it's oversized and there's no way to really say it any differently. It's just too big for this body. That said, I do think that it's a decent figure. It's certainly not the greatest in the wave, but if you don't have a Venom figure, here's your chance. That said, if you already have the original one and you don't need the Build-A-Figure piece, you might not need this Venom either. So that's going to do it for this look at the Marvel Legends Venom figure from Hasbro. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.